is very funny because I never thought that I would do a vlog. Vlogging is such a weird thing. Let's not do it, but I'm actually kind of experimenting, and I've been thinking about the fact that I'm getting bored with the type of videos that I've been making, and I've just kind of I didn't want to edit, and now I'm just kind of changing my mind, and I'm like remembering when I was young, when I was 20, I loved taking videos, and I was just thinking like I should make a mix up footage, of me kind of like walking around in here and like walking through the house and like going through all the old picture albums and just mash it all up together and turn it into freaking artwork. I can do whatever I want because it's my channel. So we're loving this. I hope you're loving this too, and let's go. Okay, so welcome back to the Just Show Up show. A completely different edition this time. What we're doing this time is that I'm actually taking you guys with me through a process that I kind of go through every time when I come back, which is roughly every 2 years. And it has been this way ever since I left home when I was 18. I was away studying, and as some of you know, whoever's watched my video on healing my mother wound, my family is intense, all right? Um, so whenever I come home, um, over the years, I've noticed that for me, coming home mostly means coming to grandma's and coming to this place that I really wanted to show you guys because I think, I don't know, every time I come back here, I just reflect on this family history and on this trauma that has occurred here and how it's manifesting in the lives of the people that it's affected and how all of us are coping with it. And every one of us in this family is on their own healing path and on their own healing journey, and the expressions just take very different forms and shapes. And I've just been reflecting on mine, and I found it very interesting this time when I got back. My mom came over, so I'm staying at my grandma's place, and my mom came over, and I made peace with my mom, and I told her that our relationship, basically doesn't exist, because for the longest time she was my abuser, and I was, mentally and physically tortured at home, basically. And when I left home and I went to uni, I had a months and months of intense nightmares about my mom. Like in those nightmares, she basically looked demonic, like she would have like a green face, and like she would always be like crazy and yelling and just very, very difficult stuff. And I was very deeply affected. So when I noticed how deeply affected I was by those, 18 years of insanity that I had to live through, I just felt like I don't want to, I obviously had no desire to go and visit this person. I just kind of wanted to forget everything and just move on with my life. And that's what I did for the first couple years until I slowly realized, like, oh shit, I can't just ignore this. Like I've been through something very, very intense that I really need to heal. I did get damaged by this. And so I went on my healing journey. And, last year I felt very accomplished, and I felt like, I felt very, very great when I made that video. And I honestly felt very hopeful about my relationship with my mother. I felt very forgiving. I felt like, I'm so happy for her, for healing herself. I felt like she had done a really good job in her own healing. Um, and I do appreciate where she's at. And recently she's had some um, very difficult things. Her husband died, and that's not my father, by the way. That's what everyone asks when I say that. Um, so she's been struggling a lot, and at the same time, she's been very strong and everything. So this time when she came over, I just felt like it was a strange feeling, it was a very strange feeling this time. I felt a lot of anger coming up for me, and at first I was very confused by the anger, and I was like, well, what is this anger? I'm like feeling so healed and I'm so happy, and I feel so healthy. Like, why am I having this anger reaction coming at me? And I realized, after finally allowing it to come up, because at first I was really just kind of dismissing it as if like it's not possible, that I would be angry, and like, how can I possibly have anger come up? And I noticed that the reason why I felt angry was, for some reason, like when I saw my mom this time, I just did not have the desire to talk to her. I found the conversations extremely like boring and annoying, and I just had no, I don't know, it was strange. Like I just had no patience, and I felt like she was doing the old thing again, like I felt that she was kind of doing her old manipulation, emotional manipulation thing again. And this time, because I feel so healed and I feel uh so much self-worth and so much self-love, and I've really come to a place of very wonderful boundaries. And I've come to the realization as well that I'm just at a point in my life where I don't want to do things anymore. Like, if something is not comfortable for me, if something is feeling, torturous for me, I will not do that thing in order to make someone else more comfortable, or to make them happy. And I knew that in this situation, as tricky as it was, because I understand that my mom has the desire to spend time with me and she wants a relationship and she wants to be close to me. But then I felt like, you know what, like I have to honor my truth. I have to honor the fact that this time when I saw you, I just don't feel it. I just don't feel any desire to talk to you or to be close. And it made me think so much about the body keeps the score. And it's like, I kind of want to do this video as almost like a follow-up to the mother wound video, because I feel like in that video I was very optimistic. I was like, this is great, I'm an enlightened person and I can have a wonderful relationship with my mother. We are both healed. Yay, let's do this. But I now this time have really learned that I can't forgive, and like, but at the same time, I feel that my deepest desire would be really for her to just respect the fact that this is as far as I want to take it right now, and to not be pushing and trying to speed things up in an unnatural way. I feel like she's very kind of desperate and like urgent to create that relationship that she wants, even though like this time I was thinking like, man, that is very like ambitious, and very entitled in a way, because she was very abusive and she was extremely like violating and destructive to me. And I feel that she should really have a lot more respect, once she has now finally realized that everything that she was doing was really really wrong. And regardless of how traumatized she is, like, she still made those choices to, I mean, I don't know how much self control she had, because the kind of rage um, attacks almost that she had were really demonic. And you could just see that she was almost like possessed by something else, by like some kind of insane amount of anger and rage and like needing to control everything. I mean, just talking about it now, it's like it is really exhausting, but it just it was just like a really interesting situation, because I noticed how much, doing all this kind of inner work and healing work really affects, like how you come back and come back home, right? And Eckhart Tolle, he said, if you think you're enlightened, go spend a week with your family. And I really feel like that is so true. Like every time I come back and see family, I feel like I'm tested on a whole new level. And the other thing is also like recently we were doing a lot of exercises in the Drawing for Healing events where we were working around the mother archetype and the father archetype and like having a lot of dialogue with our biological mother and father. And what all of us collectively as a group realized, is that in our day-to-day life we look at our parents and we just see these people that we have so much expectation from, and if they do something wrong, but like in my case I honestly feel like um I am correct in my judgment because it was really violating. It wasn't like a small thing, like it wasn't like, oh, my mother is just a human being and like she's stressed out at work, so she, said something nasty to me. Like it wasn't like that. It was just like real full on abuse. And I do feel that I should be allowed to just honor that, and the Drawing for Healing group events were just so insightful because we all got to learn about the different ways in which we deal with family. And there are many of us who, we come to a point where we forgive our mothers. We're like, okay, I see you, you're a human being, you had your own wishes, your own dreams, and certain things went the way you wanted them to go and many other things didn't, and having me was a gigantic sacrifice. Like that's something that also, now that I'm getting older and I have more friends having kids, it's closer to me and I'm starting to see that it is a full-time job and it's really like taxing. It's really hard to be a mother. There's so many things that you don't get to do anymore unless you have a nanny or you really have a lot of help. It is a full-time job, and I'm also starting to see that for myself. That would be I can see that it would drive me crazy. It would definitely push me to my limits because I need a lot of alone time. I need a lot of reading. I need a lot of like introspection time, creating time. And I'm pretty sure, if I had kids, that would get kind of taken away. So that's another thing I've been kind of trying to put all of these puzzle pieces into perspective. And the other thing that I've been very much meditating on is something that I heard in a book that I was audio reading, um, which was that, like when we were little, all of the people pleasing that we did was in order to survive because we depended on our parents. So everything that we did to be good and we did it to make them happy. And the problem with that is that we tend to think very black and white. It's like it's either I'm a good girl or I'm a bad girl. They are good or they are bad. And I think like in this case now, it really helps to think of it in a, not either or, but just in a this and that way, which is to say, like, I don't like my mother as a person. I really don't. I really don't. There's so many things that she does that I just roll my eyes at, and I just think this is so horribly lame, and just some things are just even immoral, and I'm like, this what kind of freaking person is this, And at the same time, I can also be like, and I see her good sides. She is I think ultimately at the end of the day, a good person who's just really difficult and really troubled, and she's just, I think, somehow trying to make the best choices that make the most sense to her in her perception of reality. And that can be okay, like those kind of opposites can be true at the same time. And I think that is something that for us human beings is generally really hard to do, right? Like we just want to kind of give a conclusion to the thing that we're looking at, like it's either good or it's bad. Like it's very hard for us to keep some kind of grayness in our minds at the same time. um and yeah, I also wanted to show you guys the beautiful nature here, because that's the other thing. I feel like whenever I come here, the house itself feels heavy to me, and everything in the house reminds me of the abuse. But then when I go out, and in the pictures that I'm showing you, you can also see that when I was a baby, like when I was very small, I was born happy. Like, I swear to God, I was born really pure and really happy and just so carefree and bouncing around and like creative. And then I was born into this really heavily traumatized family, with like so much heaviness. Uh, like on my dad's side, his father was an alcoholic, abusive, like violent alcoholic, and on my mom's side, her dad was a violent, abusive alcoholic. And this also, it's very strange. Like every time I come here, I look at the vineyards and all the wine that we're drinking, and it's like the habits around drinking here, it's part of the culture, just that everyone is drinking. And it's like very funny, because like no one tells these people that alcohol is actually addictive and it becomes problematic for some people. And it's really remarkable to see. Like I don't know if these people are just like naturally predisposed to violence, uh, or if it's the alcohol that makes them, that brings it out. I have no idea how it works, but it's just like insane to see the amount of destruction that this substance can cause in people's lives. Like it's just out there. and and it also is very interesting for me to see, how different people deal with it differently. Like my grandma, for example, like she was the worst affected because she was the one that was beaten the most, and had to deal with this crazy husband and like, leave him and like not know what to do and still feed three kids. Like the craziest story that we have about my grandpa is that he like wasn't happy with my grandma kind of trying to get like half the money, because he would just drink all the money away. So she was trying to keep some money so she can feed the kids. And then he got angry and he went to his job and he freaking dropped a brick on his foot so that he would break his foot and wouldn't have to go to work anymore. Like that's the kind of person we're dealing with here. Oh my god. And I just, every time I come back here, like my grandma's my favorite person, probably. Like, I mean, in the family for sure. And I just, I think I like her so much because I'm like, damn, man, this woman has been through everything, but she's so, it's not like a kind of strong, like you're strong so that you're hiding your weakness. Like, it's just like she just accepts life and she just does what needs to be done. She doesn't complain. She's so giving, she's so pro life, and she doesn't get defeated by anything. It's like, of course, she suffered so much because of this, but she never made it a part of her identity. And I really deeply admire and respect that. And so I think that's why I kind of love coming back here, while at the same time all of this is very difficult to look at and to be reminded of, because I think now also, I've created a very happy life for myself and I've healed, and, clearly, I'm not attracting, re-triggering things into my life anymore, which means that I've really like done the healing work. And I just, feel like it's still really interesting to come back and to see the reactions, and like this time, the reaction of feeling my anger coming up, I felt that that was actually like a really healthy thing, because it means that I'm now finally seeing things really clearly. I can see that I have so much self respect and so much self love, and I am so deeply connected to just source, and like life, and you know life affirming stuff, that whenever I see people being mean to each other, or just anything that is not like coherent with love, just feels really horrible to me, and I just don't understand it. I just don't understand what's going on with people who are like that. And so it's really interesting how I reacted this time. It's really interesting to see how I kind of managed, um, still keeping my boundaries, and, like staying within this, whatever I find healthy, and at the same time, still being here, being present. And I feel like it kind of really worked very well. And I'm just, yeah, I'm just like really grateful for this experience of the anger coming up, because it really is wrong and it really should anger me, right? Like I should be feeling anger about this. And I think that in the past, I never allowed myself to feel anger, right? Because I always felt like it was useless, like it wouldn't do anything, um, like it wasn't helping me in my survival. But yeah, now it's really fun to experience that, and I wanted to share that with you. And I wanted to share the beautiful nature, and the practices that I do whenever I come back here. I like to go up the attic and like go through my stuff and just reflect. I like to come back here and reflect, on like the choices that I've made in my life. And it really kind of helps me recalibrate and kind of set out like a new map of where I'm going. I'm kind of doing like my Bill Gates Think Week. By coming here, I like to go down to the bench and just like look out onto the beautiful nature. And I think that's the other thing that I really wanted to show. I wanted to tell you guys the story, but I also really wanted to show you the nature and just how joyful it makes me to be out there. And I think when I was a kid, and like really suffering through all this, and still, whenever I suffer through anything, I feel like I always just go out into nature. And when I can be around trees and around, grass fields, I just feel like this is my real home. This is where this this feeling of perfect natural balance and harmony, that is my actual real home. And I wanted to show you, I guess I wanted to show you my real human home, where I come from, and at the same time, I wanted to show you my real kind of spiritual, universal home of nature. And I think that's it for today. Thank you so much for joining me on this walk, and I'll see you again next week.